Hola clase! So if you've watched the last video that I posted, I was doing a review and kind of an instruction on Spanish conjugation for regular verbs in the present tense, and I kind of went over how the whole process of conjugation works. I went over the endings to kind of give you guys a refresher. In this video, I'm going to be doing the past tense verbs. So I think this would be a good one for you guys to watch too, to just get a good review. Before we go into the past tense, I just want to review the overall idea of conjugation first. Remember that in Spanish, there are three kinds of verbs, and verbs are our action words. There are ones that end in AR, ones that end in ER, and ones that end in IR. When the verb ends in AR, ER, or IR, that form of the verb is called the infinitive. So that's going to be your base form of the verb. And that translates to do the verb. So to speak, for hablar. To eat, for comer. And vivir is to live. Also, when we're conjugating, we're going to need to know who our subjects are. So the subject is going to be the person who's completing the action. So if I'm doing it, I'm the subject, right? If I speak, then the subject's going to be me, right? If we speak, then we are the subject. So the subject is the person who's doing it. And then in our little conjugation chart over here, we can see on the right, just remember to kind of help you keep it organized in the chart. On the left side, those are your singles. So I, you formal, he, she, right? Those are all our singles. They're on the left. While on the right, we have our plural. So more than one subject at a time who's completing the action. So that's we, y'all, and they. All right, so now let's get into the past tense. Remember that there are two forms in the past tense that we can speak in. One is the preterite tense, and the other is the imperfect. The times when we would use the preterite would be when it's a precise or a finished action. So, I ate. Boom, precise, finished, done. That's going to be preterite. Another time would be when it's a specific number of times or it's over a specific period of time. So if it's really specific, if I'm saying I lived in California for 5 years, that's going to be the preterite tense because you're specifying how long you lived there. If I just said, I lived in California when I was young, that's not going to be preterite because you're not specifying how long. Preterite would also be an interruption. We've talked about that. So if something's going on and then suddenly something happens, that interruption that suddenly happens is going to be your preterite. You're also going to use preterite if there's an emphasis on the beginning or the ending. So if it's like something that's beginning or something that you're finishing up, that's what the verb is kind of focused on. That's going to be your preterite tense. And then the last one is if it's like an emotion that's a result of the precise or finished action. So I got sad when I bombed the test. I got sad is going to be preterite because it's a result of bombing the test. So that's how that one works. So if it fits in one of those 5 categories, it's going to be preterite. If it doesn't fit into one of those 5 categories, then it's more than likely going to be imperfect. So your imperfects are like the ongoing actions. This is the ones that aren't a specific time frame. So kind of like I was saying, if I just say I lived in California when I was young, that's going to be imperfect, not preterite, because you're not specifying how long. If you're just saying, man, I studied so much for that test, that's going to be the imperfect because you were studying for a long time but you're not specifying the time, versus I studied for 5 days straight before I took that test. Well, that's going to be preterite because, man, you're specifying how many days you were studying. So that's kind of the difference there. And then imperfect is also that, that kind of feeling of something that used to be done. So I'm just going to show you some examples here. On this side with the preterite, we have he ran. That's the precise finished action. He ran. The imperfect version of that would be he used to run. Man, he used to run up and down this street every day or whatever. He used to do it. It was an ongoing action. Not over a specific period of time, just it was something that was ongoing, right? That's your imperfect. Another example would be she ate ice cream. Maybe there was a party and she ate ice cream. That was an event. That was something that happened. It was precise. It was finished. Versus the imperfect, she used to eat ice cream. Maybe she doesn't anymore, but it's just something, she used to eat ice cream. Both are talking in the past tense about her eating ice cream, but one of them's precise and one of them's just kind of like something that used to be done. They traveled for 5 days. That one's preterite because you're specifying how many days they traveled for. Versus in the imperfect, it would be more like they used to travel more, right? Both of them, they're traveling in the past, but one of them's a specific time frame and one of them's just a general, they used to travel, right? Another example is he walked. Precise, finished. Versus the imperfect, as he walked, he tripped. All right, so this sentence is interesting because he walked here. In this side is going to be imperfect because as he walked, it was an ongoing action. But then here, he tripped. That's actually going to be preterite because that's the interruption that we talked about, right? As he walked, that's the imperfect. It was an ongoing action. And then suddenly, interruption, he tripped. That's your preterite. So that's kind of how the preterite and imperfect tenses work. Now let's learn the endings. So again, just as a reminder, I've got my subjects over here on the left side, just so you can remember where each one belongs. I, you formal, he, she, and then on the right, we, y'all, and they. Let's start with AR verbs in the preterite tense and give you those endings. We're going to take the verb hablar, to speak. Remember that our verb is broken up into 2 parts. The first part is your stem. That's all the parts that come before the AR, the ER, or the IR. And then you have your ending. So the ending is the part that you're going to be swapping out for these new endings that I'm about to teach you right now. So if I want to say that I spoke in the preterite tense, I will keep my HABL the same, and the ending I'm going to switch the AR out for is A with an accent on it. So that would become hablé, I spoke. If I want to say you did it, the ending is haste. So keeping my stem the same, switching out the AR, I get hablaste. If I want to say usted, él, or ella spoke, the ending is O. So I'll switch out the AR for the O, and I get habló. An important thing to remember here is the pronunciation, because in Spanish you emphasize a certain part of the word, and sometimes depending on the part you emphasize, it could mean a completely different thing. For example, with this one, if you remember, in the present tense, the ending for I do something is an O. So for the verb hablar, to speak, if I'm conjugating in the present tense and saying I speak, then I'd say hablo. When you're speaking in Spanish, if there are no accents on there, you're always going to put the emphasis on the second to last vowel. If they want you to do it differently, they're going to put an accent on there to let you know, instead of emphasizing the normal spot in this verb or this word, you're going to emphasize right here, like they've done here, habló. It's spelled the exact same except for that little accent as I speak, and now it means you or he or she spoke in the past tense. So it's really important to put the emphasis in the right spot so that you're saying the thing that you want to say instead of saying something different. So instead of being hablo, which is I speak, it's habló. He or she spoke, or you formal spoke. Okay, nosotros, we. The ending for we in the preterite tense is going to be amos for AR verbs. So, keeping my stem the same, switching out that AR, I get hablamos. Remember, vosotros is y'all, but they mostly just use it in Spain, so we're not going to worry about it. The y'all we use is the ustedes, And then this box also is for ellos and ellas. And the ending for that is aron. So I end up with hablaron. And those are the endings for AR verbs in the preterite tense. You can sing a song to help you remember these endings, and I'll make a fool of myself and sing it for you here. So it's to the tune of the Banana Boat song, if you're familiar with that song, and I've sung it in class a couple times for you. But this is for the endings in el preterito, which is in the preterite, just so you recognize the ending of this song when I sing it. So it's hable, hablaste, habló, hablamos, hablaron en el preterito. So I'll do it one more time. Hable, hablaste, habló, hablamos, hablaron en el preterito. Sorry, you have to listen to me sing on here. But that will help you remember the endings. It was really helpful for me. Okay, now we're going to talk about ER verbs in the preterite tense. So again, our subjects are just right over there. And we're going to use that as kind of a key to know where the endings go and who we're talking about. Let's take the verb comer, which is to eat. Remember that this is our stem. This is our ending. So if I want to say yo, I do the verb in ER verbs in the preterite tense, the ending is I. It's an I with an accent on it. So I end up with comí. I ate. For tú, the ending is iste. So if I swap out that ER for iste instead, I get comiste. You ate. For usted, él, and ella, the ending is yo. So if I keep my stem the same, switch out the ending, I get comió. For nosotros, the ending is imos. So I end up with comimos. Again, we're not going to worry about vosotros. For ustedes, ellos, and ellas, the ending is ieron. So I end up with comieron, which means y'all or they ate. Nice thing about the past tense is that ER and IR are exactly the same. So let's take the verb vivir. This is my stem. This is my ending. For yo, again, the ending is I. So I end up with viví. For tú, the ending is iste. So I end up with viviste. For usted, él, and ella, the ending is yo. So I end up with vivió. For nosotros, the ending is imos. So swapping out that ending, I get vivimos. And for ustedes, ellos, and ellas, the ending is ieron. And I end up with vivieron. Again, just notice those endings are exactly the same. Really convenient, makes it really nice so that you can remember the endings. You can sing the same song that you sing with AR verbs for the ER and IR. So I'll go ahead and do that for you here, just entertain you for a little bit. I'll sing one for comer and one for vivir. So, comí, comiste, comió, comimos, comieron en el pretérito. Viví, viviste, vivió, vivimos, vivieron en el pretérito. So, if you sing that to yourself, you'll have these memorized in no time. Okay, now let's talk about the imperfect tense. These are the endings for the AR verbs in the imperfect tense. We're going to take the verb hablar again. Remember, this is the stem, and this is the ending. For yo, the ending is ava. So, if I put that in, swap it out with the AR, I end up with hablaba. Kind of like I used to speak. For tú, the ending is habas. So I end up with hablabas. For usted, él, and ella, the ending is haba. So I would end up with hablaba. For nosotros, the ending is habamos. Notice the accent. So I would end up with hablábamos. Vosotros is not one we worry about. Ustedes, ellos, and ellas, the ending is haban. So if I keep my stem the same, swap out my ending, I end up with hablaban. I do have a little sort of song for these ones too. It's a little weird to me, but I will sing it for you because it might help you. So this one doesn't worry about the verb, it's just the endings. So this is how it goes. Ava, ava, sava, abamos, avan. So I'll do it one more time. Ava, ava, sava, abamos, avan. So there you go. It's the best one I could find. So, and you know, songs always help things stick in my mind. So hopefully it'll help you too. Okay, now let's do the ER and the IR. Again, like I said before, they're exactly the same in the past tense in both preterite and imperfect. So that makes it really nice because that's less to learn. Let's take the verb comer again for ER. This is my stem. Here's my ending. Okay, so the ending for yo, for the imperfect tense for an ER verb, is going to be ia. It's down there in the bottom left, in case you were wondering. It's a little bit different than the other side. So ia is my ending. So if I swap out my ER for the ia, I end up with comía. For tú, the ending is ias. So swapping out that ER, I end up with comías. So it's like you used to eat. For usted, él, and ella, the ending is ia again. So again, it's comía. For nosotros, the ending is íamos. So swapping out that ER for the íamos, I end up with comíamos. We used to eat. And for ustedes, ellos, and ellas, the ending is ian. So swapping out that ending, I get comían. Now let's take the verb vivir again. Same endings. So I would end up with the first one, vivía, for I used to live, because vivir is to live. You used to live would be vivías. He or she used to live, or you, sir or ma'am, used to live would be vivía. We used to live would be vivíamos. And y'all or they used to live would be vivían. Again, you can do that same song for these ones. So just the same melody. Ia, ias, ia, íamos, ian. So there you go. You got songs to learn these, and now I get to be done singing. So, okay, let's practice. Okay, so let's take this verb alegrar, which means to cheer up. And let's say that we want to say, I cheered up in the preterite tense. Here is my list of subjects, and here are the corresponding endings for AR verbs in the preterite tense. So if I want to say I cheered up, yo is I. The ending for I is this E with an accent on it. So swapping out the ending and keeping my stem the same, I end up with alegre. I cheered up. Let's do the next one. Imponer, to impose. If I wanted to say we used to impose in the imperfect tense, I have to change that ending. So here's our subjects again, and here are the corresponding endings for ER verbs in the imperfect tense. We is this nosotros here. So the corresponding ending is íamos. So if I keep my stem here the same and I swap out this ending, I end up with imponíamos. We used to impose. How about cumplir? IR verb, to complete or fulfill. If I wanted to say, excuse me, he completed in the preterite tense, I have to swap out that ending. So here are my endings for IR verbs in the preterite tense. He is this L here. So the ending I'm going to put in there is yo. So I'll keep my stem the same, swap out the IR, and I end up with cumplió, which means he completed. Let's just do one more. Jugar is to play. So if I wanted to instead say y'all used to play in the imperfect tense, I have to look at my endings. And y'all is this ustedes here. So my ending that I want to swap out would be avan. So I keep this stem the same, swap out this AR for avan, and I get jugaban. Y'all used to play. And that's el fin, the end. Bien hecho.